And now, ladies and gentlemen, without taking further time of yours, please help me welcome our next presenter on the topic of unlocking insurance data to generate value, Mr. Vaibhav Dobriyal, Dobi, co-founder and CPO from LUMIQ. A big round of applause to Mr. Vaibhav. Vaibhav, welcome to the stage. Looking forward to a great session from you.
How to accelerate this journey, not just of collecting data, but unlocking this data and creating value out of it. Before I do that, let me quickly introduce LUMIQ. There's only one line of business that we do, that's data and analytics, and we only do it for FSI. So there is a lot of focus on insurance, banking, asset management companies. The whole idea is, we saw it coming that data is going to be the next big thing 10 years back. We just completed a decade. And what exactly do we do? 3 things, as you would expect. Data modernization. How do you take this data, build those systems on scale, not just collecting, managing, processing that data, but bringing elements like observability so that you could take your data-driven decisions with confidence. The second is, of course, your customer insights. All of us insurers exist because of our end customers, right? So how do we create value actually for them? You want to run personalized campaign, messaging, whatever you want to do with that data. We talked about KYCs coming up. So how do we get that view of customers across? And I'm not just talking about views, say, from a CRM perspective, but a holistic view across documents, across everything, anything that a customer does into an ecosystem. The third thing that you see us being active in is actually the business ops, the excellence. I just collected an interesting data point from a conversation before. 40% of the time an underwriter spends is doing things which are not essentially underwriting. How do we solve those problems? So you would see us operating in that area as well. There's only one line on the right side that I want to leave you with. We are not doing it for the first time. We work with already 40 plus customers in India. And the other important thing is that we have a strong domain knowledge. We are not a product company. We are not a services company. We are a solutions focused company. So with that, I come to the actual topic. Our data is still logged. We still have to agree that our data is still logged. And there is numerous research that you will see which supports it. Most of the leaders still feel, that's a quote from McKinsey, 76% people of us believe that we don't have access to the right data to take those decisions. It takes a long time to do anything with data. And the third and most important thing is we are still not agile. You build something, you want to change that, it takes a long time. But the key question is why? So there are 4 important things that we believe create this issue. The first one is, of course, the lead time itself. Innovating with data with an agile mindset. It's slow. Holistic data thinking is different from the way we approached applications. Unfortunately, because of the effort that we spent as an industry in the previous leg, our mindset about data is still driven from the way applications were built. And I'll go in details about how. We are still thinking about data as something which is outside our core systems, right? If I was to talk about a trend, what is going to happen, what is coming, we have to start thinking about AI, ML and Gen AI not in silos. We are still looking at it from a task automation perspective. And the last is techies still are asking every possible thing from business. You tell us, we will do it. Right from executing every step of the project. Okay, we all know problems. What solves it? It's not rocket science. There are 4 key things which we call as basic tenets. If we are able to address that, nothing new, interestingly. Design full, build incrementally with proven data architecture. 80% of our data value still lies in unstructured data. We talked about documents. We have not yet consumed structured data. The value is lying there. AI, ML and Gen AI in the core and how you build an application like that. I'll talk it on the next slide. The third point is govern everything. It's a day 0 priority. The guardrails must come into play. And the last is choose your partners who understand both data and tech. I know it's a complicated slide. I'll simplify it one word. Design for all data. This is how your typical platform should look out in a modularized way where you can change everything. Design full, build incrementally. Don't rely on developers to do the right thing. I have been a techie myself before I founded LUMIQ. But the idea is developers are lazy. How do you bring those controls? And last is, our architecture should support forward thinking, especially in terms of Gen AI, so your models and everything. Now that brings me to the core of this presentation. If we were to innovate with AI, ML and Gen AI as core, what are the 6 key tenets that we believe are important? And I'm going to share how we have built them, how we have used them over and over again. So the importance of unstructured data and experimentation. Business value is often what techies fail to understand. And when your partners, when developers are working with you, there is a disconnect in what they are trying to solve for and what you are trying to solve for. That understanding is critical. Holistic thinking. OCR is a classic example. We spent 10 years using OCR and we are still saying 95%. What's wrong in that thinking? People were extracting data. They were task automation mindset, not a process automation mindset. Today we talk about financial adjudication, for example, in claims. We are talking about automation of that extent. But if you really look, we were looking at documents and pulling out data. Today people are doing same thing with Gen AI, by the way. We are looking at tech chatbots and document summarization. The third part is guardrails, design with explainability, fairness, bias, audit. Not because regulators will ask for it, because it's important for you to understand when you're working with the new technology. And last is, especially with Gen AI, the validation frameworks don't exist. As an industry, we'll have to build them for ourselves. So GAN is all fine. How do we do it? So quickly, what I'm showing you is something which could be your underwriting workbench, for example. And what I'm showing you here is how it uses Gen AI. And it's an actual thing which is in play. If you see, there are some reds here. For example, the BMI is highlighted. There is financial SUC which is highlighted. What is happening is, internally, it's using Gen AI independently of your rule engines, of your ML models that are operating, and using that data to give you an indication that as per your underwriting guideline, there is a deviation here. Okay, what is the deviation? It's referring to section 4.4, and it's clearly saying what's the problem. And at the same place itself, it shows you what's the issue. So it's completing the loop in that sense. And when you go in, click into it, it's giving you a complete analysis. It's not ML, it's not BRE that is looking. Now, what have we done while building it? I'm going back to those 6 tenets, which we used as reference. The first one is, it's all based on the document which was the underwriting guideline. It's using Llama 2 foundational model, Gen AI, and it's using API agent. So we talked about data, right? Internal data. It's doing a Google search, it's doing an image search, it's looking at data about the individual who's being underwritten and trying to look for negative news, photo match, all that information. You think about the possibilities. With Google search, you have a new door which is opened and baked right into your process. The second part is, what's the value that it is driving? Somebody could say that, there is an extraction that we have done with data. But if you look at it, essentially, it's strengthening the STP process and efficiency for the underwriting. It's prepping up for zero touch and with more confidence, because it's completing the next point, explainability, fairness and bias. It's showing you why it's recommending something on the same interface that you're used to looking at as an underwriter. In terms of guardrails, model risk management, all that is coming, right? But if you see, there are no direct prompts for underwriter. They are working in an environment that they're used to. It's a contained environment. The models are deployed into your ecosystem. You're not sending data outside. So it's very much within your virtual private cloud. How we are thinking holistically, it strengthens the STP and efficiency of the underwriting process and closing that confidence loop. And to the most difficult part in the process, how do you test it out? Because it's a new experimental technology, right? So it's running in parallel, complementing and augmenting what you already have, so that you know what's happening, how this technology is working for you. So what we have done is, we have taken a framework which we developed and believed in, and this is not the only use case in insurance. I'm using just as a reference. So that's what is with the co-pilot. And with that, I move to the third part of the problem. Data needs guardrails. Data-driven thinking needs guardrails. What are those guardrails? For GenAI, the most important guardrail is to prevent surprises it's actually called a guardrail framework. For example, there is Nemo, there is guardrails.ai. Use them. Choose your model options where you are going to host it. It's similarly applicable for AI ML as well. Explainability, like we showed that information that it picked up from the underwriting document. Your auditability, your bias, your time travel. All those components needs to be stitched. From an observability perspective, if there is a deviation, you need a single pane of glass to know that there is an underlying issue in data quality and where, without somebody needing to figure out that anomaly. It should prompt from the system itself. Your lineages, where did data came from? From a machine learning model perspective, when you build models, they degrade automatically. Your model is giving the best performance on the day it is deployed. After that, it only degrades. That's the reality of AI ML. You should be able to find it out in an automated manner rather than having to struggle with it. And spend optimization, because all this is cloud, all this is new technology, right? How do you build those controls into the process? And of course, from an engineering perspective, there are tools. For example, how do you we don't need to put the application mindset into data projects. We will not know everything, but we have best practices. For example, CI/CD, for example, change management, for all the software engineering best practices. There are tools like DBT, which allows you to bring that discipline to data. That's more critical than anything else from a long-term sustainability of our data projects. And automated telemetry, collecting of data, version control, metadata management. Those are some of the important things. Now to the last part of the challenge. The other things that we see is data skills and domain expertise. These are two things which have never come together which never need to come together unless you start working with data directly. In the application world, you could still manage it. But in the data world, you need at least three things. One, strong data and analytics implementation experience. The alignment of technology solution with business needs. Co-creating understanding as a tech company that your objective is to increase STP. You are trying to go to zero touch is probably the most critical message that techies should also have. Business expertise. On the other side, you should have people who understand how insurance works. Because without them, how do we take care of those nuances that, this data is not flowing, this needs to be prioritized. Those are day-to-day needs in a data project, especially keeping in view that it takes long time to execute them. Data and analytics expertise, of course, you don't want to work with 20 partners to solve one problem. I was just showing you that underwriting co-pilot, but if you look at it, it has elements of data engineering, it has elements of data science, it has elements of GenAI, it has elements of DevOps, it has elements of MLOps, everything. So will you work with 50 people to solve one problem? At that rate, I think our innovation may not be moved at the pace at which we want. So, if I have to summarize, there are four things I want you to leave with. One is sketch the complete vision. You don't need to execute everything, but in data, it's critical to design full. We have flexibility to build over time. In fact, unlike an application, you can't build a data product one shot. It's an iterative process. But not having a complete vision, not having the full design blueprint is very risky. Rethinking with AI, ML and GenAI as a core. It's not something which will perpetually be outside the ecosystem. We are not talking about APIs eventually. We are already, I'll give you an example which all of you will relate. 10 years back, everything was happening on the policy admin system itself. Today, a lot of life insurers, for example, have gone outside Ingenium and Life Asia and built their whole ecosystem outside. So you are only using these systems as system of records. Micro solutions for micro problems, that mindset is coming. AI, ML, GenAI as a core requires us to rethink. This is a paradigm shift, needs to be embraced. It's not an intervention that will come. Governing everything, all assets must have visibility. What is an asset? A table is an asset, a file is an asset, a report is an asset, ML model is an asset, an API is an asset. Everything needs to be observed, because once you have a problem, you cannot be reactive. It needs to be identified first, then only you can fix it. So your data should tell itself that, hey, I'm not at the right stage, so that you can take your data decisions with confidence. And then, like I said, work with partners who understand business, tech. So that's all I had, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. And we can open up for questions.
Thank you so much, Vaibhav, for that wonderful presentation. And I would also like to quickly remind all of you that Vaibhav and the entire team of LUMIQ is anyways there right after the session. They've been there since day one itself. So please feel free to reach out to Vaibhav and the entire team, and I'm sure they will be happy to entertain you even after the event as well, and to let you know of any queries you have and of their products and their services and solutions. And now I would like to quickly call on stage Mr. Subbiah M, Head of Claims and Investigation and Recovery from Chola Mandalam MS General Insurance. Subbiah sir, thank you so much for doing the honors. Kindly come on stage. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Vaibhav Dobriyal, Dobi, co-founder and CPO from LUMIQ, on that fantastic presentation, Unlocking Insurance Data to Generate Value. Thank you so much, Vaibhav, for that presentation. And thank you, Subbiah ji, for doing the honors as well.